Listen, before we begin, I have to put this up here right in front so that there's no misunderstanding. Nothing presented in this recorded recovery seminar is intended to be, listen, nor does it constitute diagnosis of anything of any kind or medical anything of any kind. I don't do that. Others do that. What I do is present some things from another way of looking at them to see if they can be of some help. I put another spin, another angle outside the box for those who struggle. So I'm reaching out. I'm reaching out to help them. See if in this that I presented to those in attendance on that day and how I presented it to them, you too can find some new and helpful understanding. This is an outside-the-box, another approach recovery seminar for those alcoholics and addicts who struggle with their sobriety, many of whom have relapsed again, and yes, yet again. See if it helps you. Here's the seminar. There's a lot of reasons why people turn to alcohol and drugs. One size does not fit all. And there are people who use alcohol and drugs to excess and destroy their lives. Well, I tell you, I'm big on this. Why the hell are we so afraid to look at some of what drives people to use? Why are we so afraid to call it a reason when it is a reason? You can't use the reason as an excuse. Well, for many people, and keep in mind one size does not fit all, many people, there are reasons that drive them. What about the underlying stuff that when you lie in bed at night and your heart cries? Anybody's heart cry at night sometimes? Let me see hands. And your heart cries. And somebody says, sitting on a pity pot. You know, there are some people with hurts in their heart so deep that when anybody says you're sitting on a pity pot, that's wrong for them to say that. And it's wrong for them to say you're just feeling sorry for yourself. Because there are some people who really have a right to feel sorry for themselves and to cry because of the things that have happened to them. One size does not fit all, and people use for many reasons. The name of the seminar here is called The Planting Field of Your Life. This will bring up, listen, there's critics. When they hear this, they say, you're giving them an excuse to cop out. And I say, I'm helping them not to drop out. The planting field of your life. We know about genetics in drug addiction, alcohol addiction, where the medical model is that if your grandma or your mama or your auntie, whoever it was an alcoholic or an addict, then you are predisposed by virtue of physical genetics, predisposed to then becoming also an alcoholic or an addict. Now that's the medical model. That stands rigid. It is true. It is fact. I mean, that's part of what makes it a disease. But it's one part. What about what's called spiritual genetics? You see, if you plant a watermelon seed, the size of my little pinky fingernail, you get watermelon. You get 3-4 watermelon. Watch that. Out of a little seed, you get vines, you get the roots, you get the leaves, you get maybe 3-4 watermelon, and 3,000 seeds just like the one you planted. That's genetics. That's the physical genetics we all understand. But in spiritual genetics, just listen. Words are seeds. When you plant the watermelon seed, you plant it in the planting field in the ground. Just listen. And they say the seed grows. The seed opens. The genetics of what's in the seed comes forth. If it's a radish seed, the genetics of the radish that will be produced, the fruit of that seed, is what comes forth. If it's a watermelon seed, watermelon. So inside a human being, your spirit, 75 trillion cells in your body, that whole thing is like a planting field. And words are planted in there. Words are seeds planted inside. The genetics of what's in the word seeds brings forth. How is that, Rev? What's the fruit that comes forth from a word seed? Self-imagery, behaviors, an entire life formed by the word seeds that are planted in the planting field of one's life. Planting fields of your life. The little boy, he was, I don't know, maybe he was 3 years old, and his mama died. And so he was really traumatized by that. And about a year and a half later, his daddy got him a new mama, and she was pregnant. And soon after he got him the new mama, he had a little baby sister by the new mama. And his new mama, because that was her biological child, she loved that little girl, and his daddy, that little girl was the apple of his daddy's eye, see? And the little boy felt left out. A seed was planted in the planting field of his young life inside of him, and no words were spoken. How many know the words unspoken said, "You don't count anymore"? Let me see hands. You see that? So there was the seed. Now, the watermelon seed, when you plant it, doesn't grow. The genetics of the watermelon come forth in the ground where the seed is planted. Stay with me wherever you are out there. Don't just shut it off and say, what is this, a science class? No, it isn't. Just listen, save your life. For some of you, of course, one size does not fit all, and there's a lot of reasons, not always excuses, why people are driven to this use of alcohol and drugs, to escape who they are, to escape the feelings, to escape the memories. You see it? And say it's an excuse. Stop there. Maybe it's a reason. And so he didn't know where you put the watermelon seed in the ground, and there's moisture in the ground. And then the sun comes out. That's the heat. And that causes what's in the seed, just listen, to open and bring forth the genetics of the seed. So when his new mama, called him when he was no longer counted much, he was on the back seat now. He was already hurt when his mama died. See, little boy. Whoa. And his heart cried when his new mama said, "Stupid." And that was the heat, spelled H-U-R-T. How many can identify with that? And that seed opened, the genetics opened. He had a higher than average IQ, little stupid. He was failing in school. When you're stupid, how many know you're less than, your self-image is no good? Let me see hands here, come on. And he got into trouble because he was a little stupid. In fact, I was there the first time she called the cops on little stupid when he was 11 years old. The planting fields of your life, the image that people have of themselves. Little stupid, huh? I remember crying one day, something was going on. If that's the way you're going to be, go to your room. I don't want to see that. Planting fields of your life, stay with me. So I cried harder, and he said, "You want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about." Woo, I ran to my room, sat on the bed crying, and I was looking at the doorknob. Why the doorknob, Reb? Because I was wounded. My spirit was wounded. I was hurt. Anybody identify? I needed repair. I needed understanding. I needed a hug. But he never come in, so I turned the doorknob, and I went out in the living room. He was reading the newspaper. She dropped the newspaper below his eye level, and he saw me there. He said, "Now, that's much better." Whoa. So there was the seed. What seed was that? What do you mean, what seed was that? Yeah, what seed was that? I learned that if I want you to like me, I better not let you know how I really feel. Anybody identify with that? So I made a mask. I psyched you out. And I made a mask to show you who I wasn't that you would like. And the sad part about it is, I probably met your mask, so we never really met. Planting fields of your life. And I went to school as a little boy. My first drug of choice at 6 years old. 6 years old, you was on drugs? Yeah, my first drug of choice was fantasy. How many know the drug? You know, I was like that little girl in the second row. Man, whoa. And the teacher was teaching me, see Jack chase Spot. Oh, no way, baby. See, yeah. Whoa, I wanted to chase the little girl in the second row. But I couldn't do that because I was afraid of rejection. You see that? So I was in a prison. A prison at 6 years old? Yeah, walls do not a prison make. Lack of options makes a prison. Anybody know the lack of options? And you don't know where to go with it, you see? So there were the seeds planted. What's this got to do with alcohol and drugs? Of course, when I got a little older, you understand, afraid of rejection, I didn't know where to go. I was like locked in. One thing I found out, that the first time I had a drink, I was out of the prison. Can anybody identify with that? And it didn't care what? Whoa, I felt good. And I grew up with that poor self-image, very bad, see? Always trying for approval. Always trying to prove to you and you and you and everybody else. But it didn't matter what I did. I always went back to thinking who I was. So the young girl cried. She said that her mother screamed at her when she was a child and said, "You're an abortion, it didn't happen. I should have flushed you down the toilet." And she cried. And the other girl, her mother said to her, "You're afterbirth that lived, you're not human." But listen, this seminar, this that I do, this is not about blame, it is not. It's not about being anyone's victim. This is about overcoming these things and living life, your life, without using alcohol and drugs to numb these things out. These are the things that form a human being's self-image. That as I met those people along the way, they were trying to escape who they were too. Planting fields of your life. What gets planted there? And they say, well, that's an excuse. Is it? For me, it was a deep-rooted reason that had to be checked out. A very deep-rooted reason that needed to be looked at. A deep-rooted reason that needed to be examined when I was later on at 36 years of age, because that was driving me. And it wasn't an excuse. It was a reason, and in therapy I saw the reason, and I understood, and I began to see. I write, I'm a writer. A writer. I paint, I'm an artist. I do these things, and I was told as a boy, you can't do those things. Who do you think you are? I didn't just live with it. I went to see what's going on here, what's driving me, what's going on. And I found out it was okay to write poetry, and it was okay to be a writer, and it was okay to be an artist. It was okay to be a daydreamer. A daydreamer. If you're a daydreamer, how many daydreamers I got here? Let me see some hands. That's a gift of creative intelligence from God. To dream what can't be. Wouldn't every daydreamers, you think we'd have cities today? We'd all be still living in tents. But a guy said, let's get some bricks and let's put one on top of the other. He said, John, and we'll build an apartment house and we'll rent it out. Whoa. And another guy named Jules Verne said, whoa, a submarine, the Nautilus, with Captain Nemo. Of course, there's daydreamers, you understand? People dare to dream. Planting fields of your life. What gets planted there? That you're no good, that you're worthless, you'll never amount to anything. They named me, and then they gave me another name. What the hell is the matter with you? Anybody got that name? Hello. What the hell is the matter with this kid? Whoa, what's wrong with you? And that's how I grew up. If that's your self-image, where do you go? That's who you think you are. Just stay with me today. Here or out there somewhere. You listen. That's the self-image you have. The girl thought she was worthless. Worthless. Just listen. No man or woman will rise above the image that they have of themselves. No man or woman will rise above the image that they have of themselves. So unless that image is changed, and it ain't going to change, not going to change because you change it. Anybody listening out there, it got to get changed. It has to get changed from the outside in the same way it got in there. Like, where do you live? You live in a good neighborhood, and your self-image is born of that. What kind of clothes do you wear? The kids go to school, they can't get designer clothes, they're less than. How's that? You seeing it? Self-image. No man or woman will rise above the image they have of themselves. And that image gets changed from the outside in. I thought I was a failure. No, I'm telling you, man, a failure. Why is that? Because I failed at a whole bunch of things. How many people failed at a bunch of things? That don't make you a failure, baby. That makes you another human being that failed. That don't make you a failure. How many people sitting here screwed up big time? That makes you another person that screwed up big time, and that don't make you a screw-up. How's that? If you think you're a screw-up, then you're ashamed of yourself. The girl, she was ashamed of herself. I was ashamed of me. Man, a writer, whoa, I'm ashamed. A daydreamer, I'm ashamed. I looked in the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. The mirror isn't there at all. The shame in the mirror that I see, it's not in the mirror. The shame was in me. The little boy, stupid. Mirror, mirror on the wall. The mirror isn't there at all. The little stupid in the mirror that I see, he's not in the mirror. The little stupid, he's in me. But in time, through understanding the things that drive us, we understand. I was not a failure. I was not a screw-up. He was not stupid. You understand? And the man cried. He said he had 16 years of sobriety in the fellowship. Listen, and planting fields of your life. He said, he lost his 16 years. He said, oh my God. How did you lose 16 years? He said, I picked up my drink. You lost your years? What are you talking about? He said, well, I did. I used. You lost your clean date. The 16 years are yours forever. Unless the pictures disappeared in the picture album. Planting fields of your life. And the man needed that planted there. It was real. It was true. Planting fields of your life. It's very important. Listen to me, please. Here or out there. It's important what gets planted in there. The young girl was struggling. She struggled. And she relapsed. And she struggled with it. She came back into a facility. And she paid out of her own money. And she struggled. And she came back in. And they labeled her a chronic relapser. When I met up with her, she was trying and crying and trying and crying. She had a sincere heart and she was trying. And I said, you're not a chronic relapser. You are in the process of succeeding, having a difficult time. A very difficult time. And I worked with her. What are you running away from? What is happening? She was bright. She had a degree. What are you running away from? Well, they said it was an excuse. What about if it actually was a reason? You know what? They say, well, she was a chronic relapser. And I said, I don't think that's what I'm looking at when I look at her. I'm looking at a haunted house. She was a haunted house. And somebody had to get in the dark in the haunted house, and turn on the light. It's called enlightenment. For how many here tonight has this been enlightenment? Seen it? No man or woman will rise above the image that they have of themselves. Planting fields of your life. When I said that you're not a chronic relapser, you are in the process of succeeding, having a difficult time. When I did the seminar, anybody listening out there on the haunted house, she saw it. When I did a seminar, healing the inner spirit, she saw the healing aspect of what was going on. She cried, and then she began to tell, what had happened to her in her life. And she said, I hate to talk about it because they say I'm just using it as an excuse. I'm just sitting on a pity pot, they told me. Hey, let me interrupt here for a minute, just a minute. Listen, it's wrong for anyone to say such things to a person who's hurting. It's just wrong. The person who's hurting is seeking, listen, they're seeking relief from the pain, not more hurt. And not everyone is misguided like that to say those things. Some are, that's unfortunate, but you need to know when they say those things to you and you're hurting and seeking some relief from the pain that it's wrong. Back to the seminar. She was being driven and nobody could understand. She was a haunted house. There's a whole seminar on that, the haunted house. I opened this by saying there's many reasons why people use. I opened it by saying one size does not fit all. And in the audiences that I've spoken to over 20-some years, they're all people who tried. They're all people who didn't get it. They didn't get it the way it was said. They didn't get it the way it was written. They didn't get it the way it was presented. It doesn't mean that the way it's been said, written, or presented is wrong. It just means one size does not fit all. So I say it another way. I approach it outside the box in a way that has touched the lives of thousands of men and women, addicts and alcoholics. My critics will say, as a result of this, you've given them a reason to cop out. I said, I don't think so. Looking at the faces through the years as I presented it, looking in their eyes, I think I'm helping some people not to drop out.
Yeah.
The planting fields of your life. I was in a family, I just didn't fit. The family was all cucumbers. Whoa, we went to the first church of the cucumber. We went to the school of the cucumber. We lived in the neighborhood of the cucumber. And there I was, a pumpkin. Whoa. They said, don't you know something wrong with you? I said, yeah, you're all slim and green, baby. I'm big, round, and orange. So I spoke pumpkin, and they spoke cucumber, you see. Planting fields of your life. They planted in me, you can't be a daydreamer. You can't be a writer. You can't do this. You can't do that. You understand? And there was the prison without walls until I found out I could be a writer. I found out I could speak. I found out that I could paint with words, pictures. They say one picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, I speak 1,000 words so you get the picture. Click, click, click. Yeah, you see. The image had to change because no man or woman will rise above the image they have of themselves. And I got the image from the outside in. You're no good. You're this, you're that, you're the other thing. The guy got the image from the outside. You lost your 16 or 18 years. That has to be changed, listen please, from the outside in, the same way you got it from the outside in. So what I saw, I learned, watch. What I saw, I learned. What I learned, I did. What I did, I became. You could see with your ears. If you closed your eyes while I was talking, how many of you could see what I'm saying? Whoa. Of course, when I mentioned to the guy, 16 years, you didn't lose those years. They're yours. You see, it was up here. and the Spirit light in my mind to tell him the wisdom of what I showed him to heal his life. And when I packaged this thought and the idea in light, I packaged it in words. I sent it to his ears. And when he heard it, it turned back into light. He got the picture. How many getting the picture here tonight? You see that? And so the image was changed of who I was from the outside in. The image of the young lady. I mentioned this in another seminar. She grew up in a culture where she thought she was to be somebody's bitch and hoe. That was all she knew. Planting fields of your life. Same way the girl thought she was an abortion, it didn't happen. And she listened to some seminars. And listened to some more. And I said one time, if the room is dark and there's nothing else you can see, it's all dark. When the girl thought she was an abortion, it didn't happen. It was all dark. When the man thought he lost his 16 years, it's all dark. But if somebody's in a dark room, son, with a jar, with a firefly, the second the firefly flashes, there's something else. Isn't that true? And when that girl heard me, when some of you sitting here listening to me, and some of you out there, and some of you may be sitting in an outpatient facility listening to this, I'm the guy with the jar with the firefly. And she said, when he spoke, she said, I saw what I could become in the reflection of his words. I don't have to be that, she said. There's something else. What else is there? And she listened again to Healing the Inner Spirit. She listened to the seminar, The Process of Becoming. She listened again and again. And she said, you know, I can do this. She said, he said, the power of influence determines who we become. He said, we're always becoming based on the power of influence. Why don't I get away from the power of influence that tells me I'm a bitch and a hoe? The girl got away from the power of influence that said she was an abortion. It didn't happen. And she heard me play a song. John Denver said, lady, are you crying? Do your tears belong to me? And she said, later, I don't want to be a bitch and a hoe. I want to be a lady. I said, then get out of the power of influence that keeps you in a prison without walls. And she got out of it, and she went where people didn't treat women as bitches and hoes, but as women and ladies. And I saw her 4 years later, and she said, Rev, I'm engaged to a man, and I'm his lady. She did something, go ahead, she did something about it. She did something about it, you understand? I did something about it. I didn't have to be what I thought I was. The planting field of your life. Word seeds, all this is about word seeds. What I saw, I learned. I saw the words that they said, they got inside, they formed the image I had of myself. But I went elsewhere. And the words they planted, were word seeds. And I began to change the image of myself. I'm not a failure. I'm not a screw-up. Mirror, mirror on the wall, I can be somebody after all. Mirror, mirror on the wall, I am somebody after all. Where are you? What are you listening to? What are you hanging around? No man or woman will rise above the image that they have of themselves. Power of influence. Planting fields of your life. This makes some sense to you here tonight? Wow, thank you. Thank you. Hey, if you found this Outside the Box recovery seminar that I just presented helpful to you, then share it.
Share it with friends on Facebook and on Twitter and on your other social media accounts. You may help someone else's recovery by doing that. Well, that's the seminar. It's important, however, to understand that it's not offered as a replacement for your participation in the treatment and self-help programs that are available. It's offered to you for the purpose of opening new understanding and to encourage you to get into the appropriate self-help and treatment programs that are available for your life. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you around.